I've always been the type of person who keeps the world at arm's length. But 3 years ago, on a Tuesday that looked like every other Tuesday, something happened at the mall that I still can't find the right words for. I remember looking down at my shoes while stepping onto the escalator. And then, I felt a tug, not on my clothes, but on my soul. The mall was screaming, but all I could hear was the sound of a clock stopping. That's when I realized I wasn't moving with the stairs anymore. I spent most of my life managing things. People, schedules, files. As an office manager, you learn to see the world as a series of problems to be solved. You stay reserved. You keep your head down. That day at the Atrium Mall, I remember feeling particularly heavy. Not physically, but just tired of the noise. I was carrying a bag from a high-end boutique, a dress I didn't oppose to even really want, but felt like I had to buy. My heels were clicking against the polished marble floor. Click, click, click. It's strange the things you notice when your life is about to shift. I saw a young mother struggling with a stroller. I saw an old man sitting on a bench, just staring at nothing. I walked past them like they were ghosts. I didn't oppose. T smile. I didn't oppose. T look. I was too busy thinking about a meeting I had the next morning. I stepped onto the escalator leading up from the atrium. That oppose. S when the sound changed. It was oppose. T a loud bang. It was a mechanical groan. A shudder beneath my feet that felt deeply, fundamentally wrong. I remember the person behind me gasped. I reached for the handrail, but it wasn't oppose. T moving anymore. My heart did this weird flutter, like a bird trapped in a cage. I looked up at the glass ceiling of the mall. The sun was hitting it just right, creating these long, sharp shards of light. And for a split second, I had this overwhelming feeling that I had forgotten something incredibly important. Not my keys, not my phone, something else. Then, the floor simply vanished. The pain was everything, and then it was nothing at all. I remember the sensation of being squeezed, like the air was being forced out of my lungs by a giant, invisible hand. I heard a sound, a sickening, metallic crunch that I realized, with a strange detachment, was coming from my own body. But then, the noise of the mall rushed back in. Only, it sounded different, like I was underwater or listening through a thick stone wall. I felt a sudden, violent pop. Suddenly, I was looking down at the top of a man's head. He was wearing a baseball cap with a faded logo. He was screaming for someone to call 911. I felt so light. The heavy, tired feeling I'd carried all afternoon was gone. I looked down and saw a woman tangled at the base of the escalator. Her boutique shopping bag was torn, and a silk dress, the one I had just bought, was spilling out onto the floor, getting stained with something dark. I didn't oppose. T feel sorry for her. I didn't oppose. T even recognize her as me at first. I just thought, what a waste of a beautiful dress. I tried to reach out to the young mother I had ignored earlier, the one with the stroller. She was standing just a few feet away, covering her child's eyes, her face pale with horror. I wanted to tell her it was okay. I wanted to say, and quote, I oppose. Am sorry I didn't oppose. T help you with the door, end quote. But my hand passed right through her shoulder. It felt like walking through a cloud of cold steam. No one could see me. No one could hear me. The atrium started to feel distant. The polished marble, the glass ceiling, the frantic movements of the security guards, it all started to lose its color. It became like an old, flickering film. I felt a pull, not from the ground this time, but from everywhere at once. And then, the mall vanished into a single point of light. The light wasn't oppose, T like a sun or a lamp. It was an atmosphere. I found myself standing in a place that had no floor, yet I felt completely supported. The mall, my body, the pain, it was all a billion miles away. In front of me, there was a presence. It didn't oppose, T have a face, but it had a personality. It felt like coming home to a parent you hadn't oppose, T seen in decades. Someone who knew every secret you ever kept and loved you more because of them, not in spite of them. But then, the space around me began to fill. It wasn't oppose, T with angels or long-lost relatives. Faces started to appear, one by one, thousands of them. I saw the barista who I used to snap at because my coffee was 10 seconds late. I saw the janitor at my office whose name I never bothered to learn, even though we shared an elevator for 5 years. I saw a man in a blue car I had cut off in traffic last month, and I saw the look of genuine stress on his face that I had ignored. The presence didn't endopos, judge me. It just showed me. It felt like I was experiencing their lives and mine at the same time. I felt the janitor's loneliness. I felt the barista's exhaustion. I realized that every time I had been in quote, reserved in quote, or in quote, professional, in quote, I was actually just being cold. I had spent 37 years guarding myself, thinking I was being strong. But here, in this light, I saw it was just a way to stay small. The regret hit me then. It wasn't endopos, a sharp pain, but a heavy, soul-deep realization. And quote, I missed them, and quote, I whispered. The presence didn't endopos, speak in words, but the feeling that came back was, you are all strands of the same fabric. When you pull away from one, you weaken the whole. I looked at the faces again. They were glowing. Even the ones I thought were in quote, ordinary in quote, or in quote, annoying in quote, back on Earth. They were brilliant here. I didn't endopos, want to leave. I wanted to stay and memorize every single one of them. I wanted to apologize to all of them. But then, the presence moved closer. The presence didn't push me. It was more like a gentle wave that started to recede, carrying me back with it. I remember reaching out, trying to grab onto one of those faces, the old man from the mall bench. I wanted to tell him I saw him. I really saw him. But the light was fading. The silence of that place was replaced by a rhythmic, artificial chirping. Beep, beep, beep. Then, the weight of the world slammed back into me. It felt like being shoved into a suit made of lead. My lungs burned. My legs. I couldn't endopos, feel my legs at first. I opened my eyes to the harsh, fluorescent glare of an ICU ceiling. A nurse was hovering over me. She looked tired. Her hair was messy under her cap, and she had dark circles under her eyes. In the past, I wouldn't endopos, have noticed. I would have just seen a healthcare provider doing a job. But now, I saw her. I saw the 3 years of nursing school, the long shifts, the coffee she drank to stay awake, and the worry she felt for her own kids at home. I tried to speak, but my throat was a desert. I just squeezed her hand. She looked startled. Then she smiled, a real, weary smile, and said, and quote, welcome back, Megan, end quote. It took a long time to walk again. The end quote, escalator trauma, end quote, as the doctors called it, had done a lot of damage. But the physical pain was secondary to the shift inside my chest. I went back to being an office manager eventually, but I'm not the same manager. I still don endopos, talk much. I endopos, am still reserved by nature. But now, when I walk down the street, I don endopos, look at my phone. I look at people. I look at the stranger waiting for the bus. I look at the teenager with the headphones. I look at the homeless woman on the corner. I see the light in them. That same golden, brilliant light I saw in that place. Sometimes, when the mall gets too crowded and the noise starts to feel like too much, I close my eyes. I remember that atrium. I remember the shards of sun hitting the glass ceiling. And I remember that there is no such thing as a stranger. There are only faces we haven and opos, learn to recognize yet. I'm still waiting to see some of them again.